Let's go through 3 reasons why the Golden State Warriors can be an extremely competitive basketball team this upcoming season, and 3 reasons why they will not win an NBA championship.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How we feeling, everyone? Welcome to Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app and visit FanDuel.com to get started. The show comes at you on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcast. We're talking Golden State Warriors. I covered the team. My name's Charlie Walter. Work for 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. That's the flagship. Also on TV for CBS News Bay Area. Joining me today, Matt Kolsky, formerly of 95.7, formerly of KNBR, and he's here to, I was going to say talk me off a ledge, but it's kind of the other way. I'm going to pose the question, being the optimist, why the Golden State Warriors can win an NBA championship, or at least win the West. Although the NBA champ from a season ago is from the West. But why they can win the West, 3 reasons. And we'll debate what this team has going for them. Kolsky is going to be the contrarian and give us the 3 weaknesses why this team will not win an NBA championship. I'm sorry, I give you the tough task today, Kolsky.
Yeah, I just want to say Chuck made me do it. I did not come here looking to be the D-bag as it regards the Warriors, but we all have to play our roles.
And that is what we're doing today. And unfortunately, Kolsky's role is to shoot down the optimism. And there should be a little bit of optimism, because reason number 1 why this team can compete, it's that pudding I tell you about. It's that tapioca, the tail's in the tapioca, the proof's in the pudding. They were competitive last year. It is going to be a similar team one way or another, regardless of how you shake it, to what we saw a season ago. Guy like Buddy Hield, we expect him to be back. Players like Quentin Post, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, and different roles, obviously. Pajemski, Moody starting for a large majority of the season. Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. These are not new names. And then you add in potentially new names, an NBA champion and Al Horford, maybe someone like a Malcolm Brogdon that has a resurgence, maybe someone like DeAnthony Melton that looked good in a Warriors uniform last year and seems to fit the system. That would be my first point on what this team's strength is. We know at full strength what they will look like. Nothing is going to change in 5 months. True or false? 4 months.
Since we last saw them, you mean?
Yes.
I think that's fair. Not much will have changed since we last saw them, in all likelihood. I'm not sure. Are you saying what we last saw was a championship contender?
According to the guys that sign the paychecks, that obviously they have to say that. Everyone in their right mind's going to say it. But championship contender or not, they were a contender. You're up 1-0 in the second round of the playoffs. You got to at least consider yourself, a competitive basketball team.
Yeah, I agree. They were certainly competitive. They were definitely, good enough to beat anybody on the right day. But I don't know if I would have put them in the top 3 championship contenders, 4 championship contenders, even at that point, right? So I just want to establish what level of contender we're talking about here.
So the strength that I'm kind of throwing at you is just that we've seen it, right? And I don't know if that's
continuity,
necessarily
right?
Strength. Continuity, that's huge. Some would throw in the fact that you have the aging stars like Steph and Draymond and Jimmy. You don't expect them to take that much of a production dip in a 5-month span or whatever it may be. Now, over the course of a long season, it's tough to sustain. if you're in a position like last year where you have to win a lot of meaningful basketball games late in the season, it doesn't do you nearly as much good as being able to kind of coast into the playoffs, which is going to be tough in the Western Conference. That's a weakness right there, in my opinion, is a Western Conference that you're in. But I say continuity is a strength. You say is a weakness to rebuttal.
Age. I mean, with that continuity, you basically have two types of guys on this team right now. And even if you add Al Horford, and even if you add DeAnthony Melton, and honestly, even Gary, GP2 at this point, you have old guys you can really count on a night in, night out basis if they can just stay healthy. And you have young guys that you're pretty much across the board just not sure about on a night-to-night basis. And it's a weird combination, as it has been for a couple of years now. And that age of virtually all the guys that you feel comfortable counting on is it a weakness? Only if the worst things happen, but it's definitely a concern.
What scares you more? The inexperience and the youth from the guys 21 to age 23, or the age of players that you absolutely, like you said, you know what you're going to get from Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph when healthy?
It's definitely the latter. Because let's be honest, is there a level Pods could get to this year where it would make a Jimmy Butler injury irrelevant?
No.
No. I mean, even the highest of Kaminga lovers, and I do mean high on drugs, even the highest of Kaminga lovers couldn't tell you, well, if they just give him some minutes, like, they don't need Jimmy Butler. They need Jimmy Butler, and they need Steph Curry, and quite frankly, they need Draymond Green too. And like you said, if they win early and they can slow play those guys down the stretch and keep them rested and healthy, then maybe you're right. They could be in really good shape. But I think that is a tall ask given everything else on the roster where it is right now. Now, look, that could change in a week or a month. We don't know. We don't know what the final roster is going to look like, strangely enough. But I can't imagine a scenario where whatever they do to finalize the roster makes me not concerned about the health of the most important guys on the roster.
Health, sure. I mean, I guess, but we're talking about three players that didn't suffer any major injuries a season ago. They were nicks and bruises. Draymond maybe the most of the bunch.
Well, nicks and bruises, but by the time they got to the second round of the playoffs, their best player couldn't play, and their second best player was kind of limping around out there. Like, Jimmy Butler did not look his best against the Timberwolves. So that's why it's an age thing, right?
Kolsky, anyone 24-year-old falls in that position, and you're probably, hobbling quite a bit.
I mean, yeah, man, you can point to all that stuff, right? Like, you're right. But are you telling me you're not more concerned about it with the fact that you've got, 35, 36, and 37 heading into the season?
I am. I'm the optimist.
Yeah.
I have to be. I'm playing the optimist role on today's show.
You're doing great. And nothing you're saying is wrong. It's just we've seen too much as sports fans to not have some concern about the age at the center of this roster.
So when Steph Curry, in a public interview a month or two ago, says that he is not as concerned with age as everyone makes it out to be. In fact, he kind of likes the fact that they have wisdom. They know how to take care of their bodies. They know the grind of a regular season, where they need to be come playoff time. Is that a whole bunch of malarkey? You not believe him in that situation? Or
I believe him. I believe that there's value in wisdom. I also believe that a 32-year-old body recovers a lot better than a 37-year-old body. I think that's just a fact. That it doesn't mean Steph Curry is not in great shape. It doesn't mean he may not have a healthy season. I think he is one of these dudes that is in good enough shape that, yeah, he very well could have a healthy season. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, Steph Curry, X number of times per year, is going to drive the lane, get bumped around, and land on somebody's foot. I mean, that is just going to happen. And I think, 32-year-old Steph Curry, maybe there was a 3% chance that he got injured in those scenarios. And 37, maybe it's 15%. I don't know. I'm just making up a random scenario. But it's not that there's not value in the experience. It's not that he's not as well positioned to be healthy as a 37-year-old could be. And I'm sure the same could be said of Draymond and Jimmy. But it's still something you have to think about when you look at this roster and ask yourself, what are the odds of them competing at a high level?
Coming up, strength number 2, shooting. Now, is Kolsky's weakness number 2 going to be shooting? We're going to discuss this coming up on Locked On Warriors. First, let's tell you about America's #1 sports book. That is FanDuel. Football fans, rejoice. It is time to kick things off with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because you could find any bet, player props, same-game parlays, jumping in on live lines as the action unfolds. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com, and you'll get started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. You will win $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Strength 2 of this team, for me, is the shooting. Now, last season, I would not say it was a strength, and considering I just said continuity was one of the portions that I'm excited about for this upcoming season. You're saying, Chuck, well, look, the players that the Warriors have been interested in, and for some, verbal mutual lock. I'm talking DeAnthony Melton. I'm talking Al Horford. These guys can shoot. DeAnthony Melton just had a season where he's coming off an ACL injury. A lot of the time he spent in the gym was probably not, it's rehabbing that knee, but in addition to that, he's probably getting up a lot of shots, and he's a career 37% shooter from 3. Al Horford's someone in his best years can knock it down from 40% from 3. The age has not really affected him in a negative light in that sense. He can still knock down open shots. You have Quentin Post, one of the best 7-foot stretch bigs in terms of just pure shooting I've seen in a long time. You have Steph Curry. You have Buddy Hield. A name like Seth Curry and Malcolm Brogdon has been attached to the Warriors. All these guys can shoot. That, to me, sounds like a lot of floor spacing. Jimmy Butler's someone that really, really can get those guys good looks, find them in their spots, can utilize the fact that he's getting one-on-one coverage. If, he drives the lane, someone's in the right corner, whatever, defense doesn't collapse on Butler, he's got a one-on-one. We know Jimmy can hit that 7-foot turnaround. There's options here for the Warriors to be a pretty good shooting team. Last year, it was feast or it was famine. This year, maybe it's a little more consistent. That's my second strength. They may, if all things break right, be a pretty enticing shooting team.
Yeah. Again, this does play into one of my weaknesses, and maybe it's unfair to say this because it's not like other teams are having full-scale practices right now. But the unsettled nature of the Warriors roster is at this late date. What are we, September? The first week of September, less than a month till the restricted free agent deadline, and training camps will be underway at that point, I believe. I don't know when they report, but I believe it's end of September. It's weird to not know who's on your team fundamentally. And we're not just talking about, we might add one guy on a minimum at the end of the roster.
Talking like 3?
But there is certainly a scenario. Who right now would you say is the fourth most important player on the Golden State Warriors? Because I think we can agree Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are the top three. So who's number four? If you just had to say, who's the next most important Golden State Warrior?
That's on the team, locked and loaded, ready to go, right?
Well,
We're not talking hypotheticals.
Okay, but you don't even have to answer because that's the point, right?
I would say it's the three-headed monster between Kaminga, Moody, and Pajemski that all three of them give you value in some way, whether it's as trade chips or whether it's reaching their full potential. That, to me, those have always been my X factors of how good this team could be.
But even when you say that, you point out that any of them, and certainly, obviously, the one guy who I'm trying not to say his name on today's podcast, they're trade chips as much as anything. Certainly the one guy, probably less so Pajemski, but Moody, we know continually is mentioned in trade rumors.
He's not Voldemort, Kolsky. He's going to be on the team this upcoming season per the staff, so we may as well just start saying his name. Jonathan Kuminga, a guy that averages 15.
I'll be back to wondering why he's not playing more once the season begins. There's just nothing new to say right now. My point here is that maybe it's one of those guys, or maybe it's the guy you trade one of those guys for, or maybe it's Al Horford, or maybe, and this isn't likely, I guess, but maybe DeAnthony Melton comes back looking as good as he did last year, and it's him. Who knows? And that is a weird spot to be in for this team, and you're right. If the fourth most important player ends up being Al Horford, and he's out there grabbing rebounds and protecting the rim and knocking down three-pointers, this Kaminga stuff might seem silly in retrospect. But, and by the way, they might be a really good three-point shooting team, like you say, right? If it's Al Horford in the starting lineup and Quentin Post off the bench as a big, and then you've got, I guess you're going to play a lot of small ball with the guys we're talking about, right? So it's a lot of Buddy, and Pajemski has a rejuvenated year, and Moody continues making progress from three. Those are a lot of guys who are capable of shooting the ball. On the other hand, if Kaminga does stay and somehow finds his way into the rotation significantly, then three of your 4 or 5 most important players are not three-point shooters. And even if Kaminga or Draymond or Butler has a better shooting year percentage-wise, they're still not natural three-point shooters. And stretching the floor is not the thing they do best. So, yeah, they might be a really good three-point shooting team. It depends who plays. And who plays depends very much on who's on the roster.
In addition to that, the more toys Steve Kerr has to lay out, we've seen over the years, sometimes for good, usually for good. Last year, I always felt like the team, when they shrunk their rotation just a little, was at their best. It was always a little wonky, and he knew it. I mean, he even expressed publicly, and he even said 15, 20 games in, like the experimentation of 13-man rotations, it's got to go down to at least 11.
Right. Well, I mean, the guys who were the sort of potential third and fourth players alongside Steph and Draymond, I mean, there was no Jimmy Butler there. So just that, adding another real sort of alpha level minutes and impact guy will change that equation somewhat. It's going to be just harder logistically to play that many dudes. So I think the more interesting question this year versus how many guys will he play is who are going to be the guys that are not playing. And Kevon Looney's gone. I don't know how many dudes are going to be excited to ride the pine. If you bring back Gary Payton, he's probably understands that he's going to be doing that a lot. All these other dudes, like, I know everyone's down on Kaminga's attitude or whatever based on the way the summer has gone, but like, how do you think Brandon Pajemski is going to behave if he's playing 15 minutes a night? All we hear about is that guy's confidence. All we hear about is the size of the role he believes he's ready to take on this team. He's gonna be super cool playing 15 minutes a night if that's how it works out, sitting behind Buddy Hield. Like, Moses Moody is a hell of a good soldier, and he's got his contract, so that helps. But like, You think he's not sick of being jerked around minutes wise? Like, that problem is still out there. It's going to be really interesting to see how they handle it. And I wonder if last year they ended up making a 4-for-1, and you're not going to get another Jimmy Butler, but I wonder if there is another consolidation trade out there for them.
Boom. You led me right into my tease. That is a man with expertise in the industry. Strength number 3. Now it's TBD, but it's the Golden State Warriors' ability to consolidate and add by trading players out. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors. All right, I got to show you, first of all, my favorite jeans wear. This is Doer. Now I'm going to add Kolsky into the mix so he can kind of talk to me about this thing. Kolsky, I was wearing the stretch denims to the Atlanta airport, and they had this giant tag on the back that went over the entire pocket. And I didn't realize, obviously, that it was over the entire pocket until I got home. And I was like, oh, my God, what am I doing? And why is that story applicable? Because I'm so excited to put these things on, I don't even check my britches. I just throw them on, and I'm excited to go. And the reason I'm excited to go is for a bunch of different attributes about these pants. 1, 5 times the stretch of your traditional jeans. That is awesome. They also have something that helps out with your moisture, the Cool Max technology. It regulates your temperature, wicks away moisture. It's good stuff. They're antibacterial, which means they stay fresh longer so you can wear more and wash less. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the comfort and performance of athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. Once you try them, they will be your go-to. They have a new store in San Francisco. It's now open. 567 Hayes Street in Hayes Valley. Mention my code LOCKEDONSF. You'll get 15% off your first order, or shop online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. That is Doer, Duer, and you'll get 15% off. All right, so strength 3 was going to be just, you walked me into a Warrior strength, but strength 3 was going to be, look, you have two $50 million players. You have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and say what you want about Jimmy Butler being overpaid. He most likely is. The Warriors had to do what they had to do to get a player of that talent in. He's awesome. Jimmy Butler's still really damn good until Father Time gets to him, which it hadn't until the hip injury last year in games, 3 through 5 in the second round of the NBA playoffs. But Jimmy's awesome. Steph's awesome. Draymond was top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Could have potentially won the thing. You have players like Moody and Pods and Kaminga that are former first-round picks that are hitting that age where typically you start to figure out the game. It slows down a little. You've gone through the ringer a few times. You feel more confident. Your self-esteem's a little bit higher. All these things add up to be a strength for the Warriors, in my opinion, if healthy, which obviously when age is thrown in is important. But one of the things you brought up that could be a weakness is they have a bunch of good players, but we don't necessarily know what these players' roles will be. And to me, what it sets them up for, if they sign players, in mid-level exception, maybe not Horford, but they're signing vet minimum guys and adding in all these different role players, there could be some consolidation trades. If you're bringing in Cody Martin for $3 million, $4 million, whatever the vet minimum is nowadays, on your team to kind of be a defensive specialist, maybe Moses Moody's 13 mil, if you have enough shooting or whatever, could be used attached to a first-round pick or something to bring in a player that more fits your strength. You can do consolidation trades, 3-for-1s, 4-for-2s, certain things that can get your team better at the deadline. You can kind of assess. You can wait in the weeds. You can pounce. We talked about it last year. The only thing is, the best way to make these consolidation trades is to have Jonathan Kuminga not on the qualifying offer, and Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets has accepted the qualifying offer. Now it's a little different because Thomas is missing out on just a couple $1 million, if that, while Jonathan Kuminga would be missing out on upwards of $13, $14 million. But he's seen someone do it, bet on himself. It's now first week of September. It could happen.
I got to tell you, you may be right that Cam Thomas. I don't know, man. Cam Thomas, his qualifying offer is $6 million, so it's even less than Kaminga's.
He's like a $20 million player. It feels like 18.
Yeah, I think he's missing out on a lot, or not. Look, I don't know that he's missing out on a lot, but I think he thinks he's taking a lot less than he's worth right now, which is what Kaminga would be doing. So that would terrify me if I was the Warriors, because you just made the key point. You know, I think I would certainly be here for some kind of amazing Jonathan Kuminga Warriors redemption arc. Okay. So I'm not rooting against that, but I think we can agree it doesn't seem likely, right?
We've seen crazier things.
We have, but I think
But that would be pretty insane. Yeah.
That's right. So the quickest and most painless way to get this guy to a place that makes everyone happier is to not have him on the qualifying offer. You know, and another piece of contract news today is PJ Washington's extension, which is 4 years, $90 million, which is, you know, the exact year or the exact yearly average that the Warriors are offering Jonathan Kuminga. But I think notably 2 to 4 times the security based on how you look at it, and just a much more like respectful and a process that reflects caring about the player as part of your team. PJ Washington, while look, you can say he was an effective part of a title-winning team, and that's not something we can really say about Jonathan Kuminga. He also is, you know, 4 or 5 years older and not at all the type of prospect and level of talent that Jonathan Kuminga is. And if the Warriors' argument is, well, Jonathan Kuminga has only shown so much progress with that talent, I think you got to look yourself in the mirror on that, you know? So it's hard to not give a guy the opportunity to grow, because obviously he played a lot less minutes than PJ Washington did in his first 4 years in Charlotte while he was stinking up the joint. I just don't understand the Warriors' position. And for them to say, you know what, here's 2 guaranteed years with a team option for the third, or here's a partial guarantee on the second year, or here's, you know, a partial note trade clause, or here's 10 extra million over those 2 years. Almost none of those things have a significant effect on what the Warriors are able to do financially or roster management wise moving forward, other than getting Kaminga on a contract that is then very tradable come January. So what are they trying to do is my question. And you know, that gets back to a weakness here. Like, I can't imagine what will, when this ends, I don't know what will have been accomplished between the middle of June and the end of this saga. And I don't know why the Warriors, I know why Jonathan Kuminga isn't pressed to get this done, because he feels like his whole career is ahead of him, and worst comes to worst, he has to sit through one terrible season and then he has a chance to go prove himself wherever he wants. But the Warriors, I don't understand why they don't have a bigger sense of urgency for this, unless they know something we don't know, which of course is always possible.
It's always a possibility. And I would have to imagine, I guess the question that I'd counter with, if the Warriors just did 2 things, kept the exact same offer, but they put the no trade, or they put the trade clause in there, which obviously doesn't give you that sense of control and is not in the Warriors' best interest, but you put that in there, or you mix and match. You put either one of that or the player option in instead of the team option. You think Kaminga jumps at it and bites right away and says, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Or
I think I honestly, I look, I don't know, but if I had to guess, and based on the way this has been reported by a lot of people, including people that I know to be well connected with the Kaminga side of things, it sounds to me like a little vote of confidence, a one or two small concessions to the idea that Jonathan Kuminga is more than a straight up trade piece to them, more than just salary filler and a raw talent for somebody else's roster. I think that would close the deal, whether it's a few extra million, whether it's an extra year, a player option rather than a team option, whatever it is. Like, I really think just a little something, and maybe a convincing conversation about really giving him an opportunity to get out there and try to fit in this year. I don't know. It's one of the weirdest player sagas. I mean, look, as much as I just said, I think Cam Thomas turned down a lot of money. It's less surprising with him because he's like I mean, you know exactly what he is on the floor, which is a microwave scorer, but he's also has terrible judgment, and he's a gunner. And, even when he does get minutes, it's not clear that his statistics impact winning in the way you would like, right? So I get why people don't want to pay him. I get why the Nets, a team that's looking for new players to rebuild on, doesn't want to put long-term money down for a guy that it's just, he's a certain type of player, and that type is not the one you usually build around, right? I'm not saying Jonathan Kuminga is one to build around, but it's a different situation. And the Warriors need his contract and frankly, talent on the books more than he needs anything right now in his life. So it's just a bizarre situation, and it does feel like the Warriors have the power to end it rather painlessly. Because again, if that becomes 2 years, $50 million with a player option, if you're planning to trade him, it really doesn't affect your team at all, other than maybe allow you to trade for a slightly more expensive player, right? Allow you to make a deal where now you don't have to include DeAnthony Melton's minimum contract in it to get it done, right? I don't understand why that hurts so much. I know it's not Joe Lacob saying he won't pay the extra luxury tax, the extra double payment or whatever. Like, I just don't know what it is. I don't know what it is other than stubbornness and frustration on Kaminga's side that is keeping this undone.
If you're like a $25 million player, and I have no idea how much Aaron Gordon makes, and he's not getting traded, right? Denver's going to be good, but I just throw him out there because Steve Kerr always mentions his name, Aaron Gordon. And he's someone that like can bridge the gap between a team that is top 3 in the West to taking you over the top. Let's say a player like that, 25 mil. You got Moses Moody to potentially get you there. You have Buddy Hield's contract to potentially get you there, and that's pretty much it. Right? Like that is pretty much all the Warriors have in terms of real, not vet minimum contracts to potentially trade, unless it's Jonathan Kuminga. And if he's on the qualifying offer, we know that no trade clause in there, it doesn't even matter. Like it's not happening. He's on the Warriors for the rest of the season. He's hitting unrestricted free agency. And you would have to imagine, I mean, I think we'd see chickens fall out of the sky before we'd see Kaminga sign with the Warriors after this entire debacle and come back to the Bay Area in restricted free agency. So yeah, I mean, their best course of action here is to somehow smooth over this relationship. The issue is, and we all know what the issue is, the tea leaves have been played so publicly at this point to where we all know that Kaminga wants to go and that the Warriors want to use him as a trade asset. So how do you convince someone on something that you don't believe in?
Can I just real quick? Aaron Gordon just signed a contract that is going to pay him over the course of 4 years, $133 million. So that's exactly the point. He's $33 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying Jonathan Kuminga is Aaron Gordon, but I do think he is closer to potentially Aaron Gordon, who, remember, didn't turn into this tremendous complimentary player till he was in his late 20s. He's closer to that than he is to PJ Washington, for my money. So yeah, I'm not saying they should pay him $30 million. I don't think he's even expecting that at this point, but I don't think 24 would be such a wild stretch. It's bizarre. And yeah, to your point, who, if there is that 20-something million player out there, and look, maybe it's Andrew Wiggins. This could get weird, right? I don't know what's going to happen. But clearly, having Jonathan Kuminga on the books in the low to mid 20 millions per season is a huge value to the Warriors this season, whether or not he is playing for them. Just period.
For sure.
There's no doubt that independently of what they think he is worth, having him on the books at that number, at his age and talent level, is blatantly worthwhile for the Warriors.
No doubt about it. And now the waiting game, I was going to say begins, but it begun months ago.
Continues.
Dwells on. Locked on Warriors, October 1st is that date.
Oh, can't get here fast enough, Chuck.
It is the last we'll be hearing of a qualifying offer or of a contract. The decision will have to be made. It can be made well before then. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to the show, a decision has been made, and a good one for all Warriors fans. I'm here to say that the Warriors have some strengths to really be competitive this season. Kolsky threw out some weaknesses that could potentially hit them. The good thing is about Kolsky's weaknesses, there are things like age being correlated to injuries, which, doesn't have to be a guaranteed. We could strike gold. Celebrini can work his magic. There's some things in there. The Kaminga qualifying offer, that's not set in stone yet. That's a weakness, and I don't even remember what your third weakness was. There aren't many weaknesses.
Well, it wasn't Kaminga specifically. It was the unsettled nature of the roster. And my original third weakness was just it's not even a Warriors weakness. It's just tough out there, man.
It's tough.
The Western Conference is really tough. And honestly, that's probably the biggest problem of all. But we can get into that once they start playing hoop.
Put on your armor and get ready for battle.
Yeah,
See ya, everyone. Locked on Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.